Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Rev G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Rev G, and I'm here every Monday night on WEMS Radio, bringing you spiritual conversations and conversations that I hope can support you in living your best life. My guests, they come from all walks of life, all professions, and all perspectives. We have a good time here sharing our spiritual journeys, sharing what spiritual practices work for us, because I like for us to talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does it support us in our everyday life? And what tools can we use moment by moment when things come up? What tools can we reach for that'll support us in shifting or in feeling better about whatever's going on? There's so many things going on now and just so much information that it can become overwhelming. So, what tools do you have? We talk a lot about a spiritual toolkit. And the spiritual toolkit are those practices that you can pull up to use in moments when you need them. And they're personal to you. Each one of us, we have practices that work for us and some don't, but you get to choose which ones support you. So I'm here to support you in finding your spiritual toolkit, living your best life, finding joy in the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of everything that's going on right now. You can find me on Instagram as Rev Grenetta and on Facebook and YouTube as Rev Grenetta Mason. Tonight, I have a very, very special guest, Pamela Hamilton. Pamela is a performing artist and an educator. Pam is going to give us some exciting takes on her spiritual journey and her life as a performing artist and an educator. Pam, come on in.
Hi, sweetie.
How are you, Miss Pam?
I'm blessed and highly favored.
Good. So, introduce yourself, Pam, so that people can get to know who you are. I gave you a general overview.
Yeah, well, I'm Pam. Pam Hamilton. Pam Ham. If you're nasty, no, just kidding. I am indeed a performing artist and an educator. I am a triple V. It's kind of like a triple threat. Right. I'm a violinist, vocalist, and violist.
Yeah.
A violinist, when a violin is, viola's a little bit bigger, and I sing. I've been a professional. I performed professionally since I was 15. I'm also a guitarist. I forgot.
I feel like a lot of times. You know what? It's great because for me, I don't really know any violin or viola players. So to see you as a Black woman representing, in that arena is really great. And I'm really excited about that. Listen. Can you talk to us about just some of the interesting things that as a Black woman, female, on your journey to just being the triple V,
Yeah, I'll be happy to share that. I started learning violin when I was 8 years old. This was right in the middle of the civil rights movement, right during the civil rights movement. I was a part of the my class was part of busing, so I went to school in the white neighborhood in Ohio. I'm from Cleveland, and so that they could so-called integrate schools, which actually just meant they had a bunch of Black kids in a room, and we were isolated to that room from 8 in the morning until whenever we got finished at 2 in the afternoon. And I went through the system, through the public school system, all the way through high school. So I had occasions to bring my instrument home, and I'd have to sometimes run home from run to the bus stop from school so that nobody would jump me, and take my instrument or hurt me or something or another. So that was the reality of it for me. But in order for me to have a quality education or something or another like that, I had to travel into uncharted territory. I was raised in the buttermilk so often, and but it afforded me good teachers, exposure to instruments, to different instruments, and to music in general. I continued on. I actually started performing as a guitarist, kind of like Tracy Chapman when I was 15. I was playing in the coffee houses, playing guitar and singing folk music. I went to college for maybe about a year in Ohio, and I ran away to join an R&B group. And the R&B group was signed to A&R Records, so we went on tour. Here I am, 19 now, on tour with Al Green. Let's see, Al Green. Just people like that. War. There was a group called War. That was.
I don't remember War. I remember
War.
Yeah. I have a really crazy war story from college because we went to college in Worcester, Massachusetts, and War, they came to Boston for a concert. So we rode a bus from Worcester to Boston to see War with no plans, but just to go to the concert.
To go. Ooh, child.
It was so crazy. So of course, War. I mean, those groups that you're mentioning, back then, you were really with I was saying like rolling with the big boys, right?
I didn't know. And after that, I left the R&B group to join a jazz. Well, I sort of got into jazz a few years later, and I did shows with jazz greats like Oscar Peterson, Earl Clue, Spyro Gyra. And one of my mentors, a jazz gypsy swing jazz violinist named Stefan Grappelli from Paris, was in attendance and watching me. I was playing violin then, didn't know what I was doing, because
I was going to say, so you learned to play the violin when you were younger, starting at 8. But when you first went out as a musician, you did play guitar.
Yeah.
At what point what shifted you to start to play the violin more?
That was when I was doing the jazz. That's when I started doing jazz. I skipped over the whole theater part. I'm an actor too, but that's something else.
Right.
But I moved to New York in 85. I went to school at Manners College of Music, and I left that to join a jazz group, jazz ensemble.
Right, you were moving, but that's it.
I couldn't stay in school. I go to school and then I take what I learn and I apply it.
You wanted to be creative, more about being cretive for you.
And I also was singing, doubling as a jazz vocalist along with the jazz violin. I've had such a journey, and
I know. What kind of do you remember any of the challenges and what things you used to get yourself through them? What would you say?
So anytime a big move came to me, or I had a big decision, or there was going to be a shift in how I expressed my music. For example, when I knew it was time for me to move to New York, I literally woke up one morning and Spirit had been whispering in my ear all this time. I knew I was going to go somewhere. I knew I was going to go to New York. It was a plan. I had learned, I had in Cleveland, I was part of the science of mind. That's when I got into metaphysics really well. Science of mind, moved from AME and Baptist as I grew up. But when I got older, you know how you find your home somewhere?
Yeah,
I understood the what science of mind was. And I used science of mind principles to create. I use that and neurolinguistic programming and meditation and just visualization. And I guess at some point I was saturated, because one Thursday morning I woke up and said, "You're not going to work." I was working for a business company in Cleveland or something like that. And said, "You're not going to work today. You're going to New York."
Wow.
And I did. Actually, it was that Monday, and on Thursday, I just, I called into work and I said, something's calling me in New York. I have to see somebody about some music. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right. Okay.
But I hopped on a plane with a one-way ticket, $35 in my pocket, and no place to stay.
Wow. That was a leap. That was a leap.
I thought I had some place to stay and I was going to get some money from someplace.
You believe that, right?
I was just instructed to go, go there. And I could not resist. I couldn't resist. And on that airplane that evening was my dear friend, Bill Copps, who you may recognize from, he's an actor, TV, screen, stage and screen. You may recognize him as Uncle Bill, Whitney Houston's Uncle Bill on The Bodyguard. Although you've probably seen him in New Jack City. He was the one who said, "Your soul is required of you." Rah, la, la. But anyway, he was on the plane and he sat with me in Port Authority until 3:00 in the morning until we found some place for me to stay. 3 days after that, I got into the play Mama I Want to Sing.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know it was that. I didn't know it was a big deal. My friend who was the stage manager said, "Come on down, I want you to be in the play." And I said, okay. Yeah. And I was with them for 3 years. Anyway, the reason I said that is because I was prompted. I had to literally believe that what I had been seeing myself as. Seeing myself as a performing artist in New York City, and just held on to that, that knowing. All I needed was to get here, and I followed. That's the still small voice, my heart, whatever it was that would not let me rest until I did that thing, which was apparently my calling.
Right. Okay.
And I still follow that.
It was interesting because when you said science of the mind, I was like, give a little, what is that? For people who may not understand how, because I studied the entire book, right? So I was the same with you in terms of studying the science of the mind and then reading different books and moving on to all the different types of Christian-based, Bible-based. That's what I always say. But there's a connection and understanding. Like we go to Unity now, and Unity is a place where we still get that connection, right?
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. My sister is chiming in. From Cleveland. She said our parents were very active in the civil rights movement in the late 60s. So I was a product of that. Thank you, Dinky. but I wanted to correct you a little bit on this. The study is the science of mind,
Right.
and that is an offshoot of what is now termed religious science.
Okay.
Now, religious science is a scientific method of prayer, which involves recognition, realization. Let's see, I've got to get the steps together. Recognition, realization, confirmation, affirmation of statement of what your heart is desiring, gratitude, and release. It's a 5-step program.
Okay. And this is what you say, a science of mind?
Science of mind, religious science of mind.
Okay.
And
so what is the difference between, I think I understand it, but we always talk about the scientific church or the Scientology, right? Science of mind. There are all these different approaches, I would call them.
Sure,
right?
sure. Well, the difference is actually the meta physics. It is not based in ritual. A lot of like Scientology, Christian Science, they have a lot of ritual where you can't do this, you can't say that, you can't have that. At certain hours, you have to go to a meeting. There's ritual, and if you don't follow that ritual, it's very condemning to me and very. It suppresses your creativity, whereas science of mind or mental science, some have called it that. Actually, Reverend Ike called it. What was Reverend Ike's? He called it science of living. Is it the science of living or something or another? That's what Reverend Ike would teach. His philosophies about knowing that you have it now, that there's a nowness, and all you need to do is say that it is so. And he used scriptures a lot. He had that, he had that background from it wasn't Baptist, it was something else. Right. It was Pentecostal kind of thing. So it was
a Christian thing, right?
We were there. What a treat that was. Right. But therein lies the difference between science of mind, unity, divine science with the woman, in Chicago. I can't really remember her name right now. She came to visit us one time at Up High. Anyway, there are those. They are acknowledging the oneness. There's only one spirit, one divinity that we are all a part of, and is accessible to us right now. At all times, at any time. All we have to do is go within, unity, make your unification with the divinity that already is, and then display it. At least that's how my interpretation.
Right. And that sounds really great. And I get too that it's a process, and we each have to walk through that process, right? And it sounds like, you just do A, B, C, and D, and pop, there it is. But there's so much more to each one of those how-to steps, right?
No.
And it's so interesting that we can, exactly, talk about, deciding what you want, then you can have it. But in between all of that, there's things that you have to stay positive. You have to set intentions. You have to listen to the voice. You have to follow. There's so many in between things that go with that, right? Absolutely. And I like that we can break those down. what's interesting for me, I'm back to your sister who said that your parents were a part of the civil rights movement, right?
Yes.
How did growing up in that environment, right, impact you as you decided, to become a musician, a Black female, doing this violin thing? I
Right.
call it something because for me, it is, right?
I love it. I mean, that's why I'm here. I am a legacy now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I have grown out of impossibility.
Mm.
Someone told me or had convinced a whole group, a whole nation of people that it was impossible for them to learn. It was impossible
Mm.
for them to excel. It was impossible for them to achieve above above their programming.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
People were just getting, it was a period of enlightenment. And
Mm-hmm.
as a kid, I just was an observer, and
Mm-hmm.
none of the politics
Mm-hmm.
affected me. I just knew that I was a contributor to the planet, to the cosmos, to the universe. I was
Mm-hmm.
an important part. Even as a child, I knew that. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that looking at the stars, I would see shooting stars, and I'd say, I'm a part of that. Look at
Mm-hmm.
me looking at it. I'm wondering if the star is looking back.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to trees. I'm a big old tree hugger
Yeah.
from back in the day. Or
Mm-hmm.
looking at the flowers. In the morning, we had morning glories, and every morning they would open up. And I was like, I'm breathing the same air as that flower. And
Wow.
I'm contributing the same beauty where I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something inside of me is important, it's integral
Mm-hmm.
to the world being in order, to the world being enlightened, to the world realizing within itself globally that we are a spark of the light, of the universal light. We are a drop of the universal ocean. We have all of the properties of the light. We have all of the properties of the ocean. We have all of the properties of divinity. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that, even though I was watching people with flesh,
Mm-hmm.
trying dictating to other people with flesh, human beings,
Mm-hmm.
how they were to operate it didn't make any sense. It
Wow.
didn't make any sense. And
Mm-hmm.
it was, and it I didn't believe that was the planet. What I was seeing on the television in black and white, what I was seeing looked like it was someplace way far away from, maybe over in Europe somewhere or another. I didn't know that Little Rock, Arkansas was in America,
Oh.
because I
Mm-hmm.
would see people being hosed, and they were black, or something or
Mm-hmm.
another. And I thought maybe the Rock of Gibraltar was like, it
Right.
was the
So you,
Little Rock of Gibraltar. I thought
mhm.
that's what it was.
So you
But
had disconnected from the actual
yeah,
happening of the whole thing, right?
I, I
Yeah.
I believed in I believed in um, miracles. I believed in angels. I saw them. I spoke with them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I knew. I didn't know it was a still small voice. I didn't know if it was an ancestor. I don't know, but I had conversations constantly
Mm-hmm.
with something other than, but the same as myself. From
Mm-hmm.
a kid, from a little one. It
Mm-hmm.
was always different.
Right.
It was always different. The one with the cute smile and the violin, walking through troops of National Guards in our neighborhoods, during all that
Yeah, that whole
violence
thing.
and riots and stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw something totally different.
You did. Oh, see, I was afraid walking through all of that because I was in Memphis. And so it was just like right there where Martin Luther King was killed. So I was frightened, and you were carrying, I was running. And
sure.
you was like going through it. And it's still the impact of all of that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting when I think of you even playing the violin and going to where you needed to go to get the practice for that, right? Because we think about having the instrument. I think about learning a particular instrument as we grew up, but could your parents afford to buy it for you? Were you connected with a school that will let you have the instrument? So I can remember a lot of that.
Sure.
And just thinking, wow, when I grow up, I'm going to make sure that kids have access, right? And that they can take dance and they can take music and they can foster their creativity was one of the things. So that's why I say I'm fascinated that you were able to go through all that and come out playing these instruments, right?
Listen, I call myself an accidental teacher. I did not come to New York to teach. I came to New York to be a
performer.
This is where, you know what I want to say. I came here to just take New York by storm and be in all the clubs and you know, at the Blue Note and all them and Carnegie Hall. I hit them all. Yeah, I hit them. Yeah, I did it. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Acknowledge that you hit them, right?
Well, I got to tell you, my dad told me before he left this planet, he said, Pamela, he called me Pamela, he said, you need to be a teacher. I looked at him, I said, I love you, Daddy, but no, that's not going to happen. And he asked me, why not? And I said, I don't want all those kids pulling at me and crying and rolling on the floor and having to go to the bathroom. I don't have time for that. And he, you know, he said, oh, he looked at the ground and then he looked back up to me and said, you can always teach adults.
You can teach somebody, right?
I had nothing else to say.
Right.
And I was an active kid in school. I was always visiting the principal or having a word with the teachers because I was clown. Or, you know, I just think, I mean, I wasn't trying to be distracted. I just had a creative mind and I could think of some of the most outrageous stuff in the most outrageous time. So there were teachers, I promise you, there are teachers in heaven that are saying like,
no.
Nah, how does it feel?
Right, exactly.
But the important thing is there was a need. I'm just coming from a lesson earlier today. As my teacher told me today, I've had all of this training by top professionals, all of this experience. I have all of this information in me. I can't keep it. I cannot. That's not my private property. I got all the information the way I got it to give away. So when the opportunity, I had just come off the road. I had just come back from Italy, I think it was, and I needed something to do between gigs. And again, I was led to talk to somebody at the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music. They said, we just lost our violin teacher and we've got a bunch of little kids that don't have a teacher. Can you come in? And I'm like, I don't know nothing about teaching no children. But I needed a job. So I could teach them how to hold it. I could teach them where to put the fingers after that.
Right.
But that's all they needed. 15 years later, I am still
a teacher. Wow. You know how, and it's interesting to be able to share that gift in a way as an educator
Uh-huh.
and to give it out and kids, right? But you went with the kids instead of the adults, right? And that was just because the gig came to you. And I know 15 years. What are some of the you've done a lot with kids in those 15
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
right? Tell us a little bit about that, your journey to education
sure,
and the where you've been and what you've done.
sure. Well, I uh, have a professional diploma from Mannes College of Music,
Okay.
one of many colleges I've gone to, and I also have a certificate for as a teaching artist from
No,
Columbia
okay.
University, Teachers College.
Okay. Okay.
But before all of that came about, again, like I said, I started my teaching career at the
Conservatory.
yeah, at the conservatory. It was the
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn Queens. It was the Queens branch.
Mm-hmm.
I've also taught at Riverbank. Um, they have a cultural center there.
Mm-hmm.
I've taught for. I'm currently teach. Oh, see, I've taught for Jazz at Lincoln Center. These are
Mm-hmm.
all youngins, no
Oh, okay.
adults,
Right. No adults.
no
Right.
adults
That's interesting.
involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in
Mm-hmm.
my 15th year teaching for Harlem Children's Zone Parmas Academy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, there's so many. I've taught with Arts Horizons, which is another outreach program
Mm-hmm.
in New Jersey. I am currently, well, I will be starting online classes with
Oh, okay.
music while we're inside, which is basically a prison ministry,
Wow.
or well, not that. That is. Let me just get this straight because I'm just all over the place.
Prison ministry.
The
Yeah, wait, excuse
I
me.
have
The
worked with
kids
the
are
prison.
able
I have worked with the prison
to
industry, but that's not the kids. That's somebody else. Kids in
right.
prison. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Let me put it together. You, because my brain went like the kids.
Sorry, all of a sudden I'm in reform school. No, that's another process that I've just been asked for. But but there is a children's program through. Oh, I've also taught at the Harlem School of the Arts. But
Right.
there's a
Okay.
children's outreach program with Broadway Inspirational Voices (BIV).
Okay. So you know what? What's interesting is what comes to mind for me is I think about when we went to school, like there was music and there was art, right? And all
Mhm.
the kids went to music and they all went to art, right? Then we went to this phase where they took all of that out of the schools,
Yeah.
right? And so can you talk about that phase over the 15 years? What has that looked like from you from the beginning
Mhm.
of being an educator till now, 15 years later?
Let me tell you, that's still going on.
Okay.
Music and art are considered extracurricular.
Okay.
So it's that's what gave rise to outreach programs.
Mm.
In 2000, let's see, 4 or 5, like around 2006 or 2005, Harlem Children's Zone started to create music as part of the curriculum in the daytime. So that was part of, you'd have science and math and civics or
Right. History
reading.
and all that.
Yes, what is it, ESL or something or another?
Right.
Yeah, those as part of the regular curriculum. At third period you go to music.
Like
Fourth
we did
period,
when we were kids. Like we
yeah,
used to go, right?
yeah,
I mean, I remember all through high school going to music and going to art, right?
yep. That was
So you
good.
said now that the outreach programs are involved now, where kids are referred to these different outreach programs.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so that's interesting to me, and thinking about if they don't have the instruments or the money to get the instruments,
right.
how is that being supported as it was in the schools, before?
Oftentimes, yeah, um, there's still problems getting uh, instruments in the kids' hands to take them home.
Mm.
Um, my schools have instruments. They've purchased instruments through grants through
Okay. Mm-hmm,
kids,
mm-hmm,
so that more kids can take their instruments home. It's still a struggle. It may be a little different now that more funding has been funneled into the arts programs as a result of the pandemic. Funds have been coming. They've been releasing funds. The money's been there all the time, if you ask me.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm,
are just now getting that money to arts organizations,
mm-hmm,
through the musicians union, through the teachers unions.
mm-hmm,
It's still a process. It's
mm-hmm,
still a
mm-hmm,
process. It's not like they would, like in the day when
mm-hmm.
you have to you took your instrument home.
Yeah, yeah, you just
That
did
is
it
just
right.
now starting to happen.
Mm-hmm,
Just now starting to happen through organizations like Jazz at Lincoln Center,
mm-hmm,
or Harlem Children's Zone,
mm-hmm.
or uh, so many other programs that
Because thinking about your journey through having that instrument from the school that they let you borrow, that you took home, supported you in becoming the violinist that
exactly,
you are today, right? And I think
exactly.
about that for parents and for kids. Creativity is so important, and fostering that
Mhm.
creativity, right?
And making it affordable.
Affordable,
See,
right?
kids can't
Exactly.
afford to take these private lessons
No,
at the institute, or
it's
at the conservatory.
right,
Private
exactly.
lessons are a lot of money.
Exactly. That
And
I swear we're talking about a dream I had as a little kid, like a
mhm,
place where kids could get that support. And I know there are lots of organizations that do it, right?
yeah,
And it would be something to really share, where kids can go and get support, instruments,
sure.
music lessons, affordable music lessons, right? To
Yep.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
So let's shift a bit. And I know you talked about spirituality and your journey. I kind of get you grew up with your parents. You guys were Baptist Christian,
Yeah. In the daytime, I was AME. In the nighttime, I was Baptist.
uh,
That's just how
so
it
you
happened.
were both, right? The daytime AME and Baptist, right? And then it's good because that gives you like the foundation, right? And
Absolutely.
as you talked about the different distinctions, I know that you evolved and learned so much and taken in like different practices, different books, different methods to create. I mean, who you are spiritually, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you give us like like a little journey through your whole spiritual journey?
Oh, sure, sure. Uh, I went to Sunday school. I was in the little choir. I was in the kids choir. Um,
Mhm.
I literally grew up there. My grandparents would make sure that the grandkids on Sunday spent the night over their house, and then that morning we'd all get up and get dressed for church and go to Sunday school, and then there was regular church, and then we'd have dinner afterwards, or I would go with I went to the Baptist church with my auntie.
Oh,
And at night, we would go to the Baptist church, and they had a radio broadcast. So
mm.
I get to see, it was totally different. The Methodists, they lots of hymns,
Right,
lots
I
of,
had hymns too.
and it was a more, it was a gentle approach to Bible studies. We studied all the books, all the lessons. And at night was when, the hooping and hollering would carry on. The Holy Ghost.
Right.
People be running down the aisles and jumping over each other and falling out. I liked that part. That was fun. It was like,
I know, as kids, we thought that was fascinating because our church too was like yours. We did the hymn, but whenever we got to go to the Holy Church, boy, we were excited, right? Yeah, it is true. Then we, so go ahead. So then you did that, and then but it's so interesting because you talked about as a kid, you had all these connections, right? And all these different experiences. And what I thought about is that as a kid, were they ever validated, or maybe you didn't need it? You were just so adventurous on your own that you didn't think anything of it. You're just, I'm Pam and I'm me. Because getting validation around talking to your angels and being with spirit, how did that work for you?
Well, I guess I've always kept a journal. I still do.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It more so when I was younger, it was a diary or something or another. And I had an angel, and I would write to my angel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I would tell about my day and who I met, or it was a conversation. It was a literal conversation, only it was written down. I've got my oldest diary from 1969. I have it with me, and it cracks me up to see where my brain was. It was it always had something to do with music, or what the climate, the social climate was at the time. Again, this is the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. There was the Vietnam War and everything. Everything, women's rights, everything.
It's interesting that you said that, because it comes to mind journaling, because I talk about different spiritual practices that we all have, and we each have ones that support us. So it's interesting that from very young, journaling has been that support to you, where you kept in touch with your angels or your spiritual self, right? Because I think about it as a young kid, I just kind of accepted what they said. It didn't quite sit right with me, right? But I don't have any awareness of the connection,
Yeah, well, it kept me sane. I mean, it kept me. There was a lot going on, not just in my neighborhood or in the country, but in my home. There was a lot. I remember my father's. He worked for one of the major motor, the Ford or something, or Chevy.
Yeah, or one of them companies in Ohio.
And there was always a strike. There was always some kind of dispute, and he was always out of work, I suppose. And here he had five little Hamiltons, ace, deuce, trade, 4, spot, and 5, looking at him, and mom was a stay-at-home mom. So, and there was a lot not fair, a lot not right. The housing had just, they had started opening up housing in the white neighborhoods, and our house was egged all the time. Even I heard of crosses being burned in the park not too far from where I lived, and there was just stuff that did not make any sense, and it didn't feel good in here. And I didn't know exactly how to talk to the grown-ups, because they were telling me it's just the way that is. That's how it is. We have to. Like, it just never occurred to me that people could not love each other for being people. How can one other person oppress another?
Right.
And then knowing that it had been going on and on and on, and I'm looking at myself in a sea of white folks, and I'm the brown one, and I'm smart like them. I
Right.
I'm I can talk. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talented like
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
I can do all that stuff, but why don't I have the opportunity to live
Mm-hmm.
comfortably?
Yeah.
To
Mm-hmm.
go to a school where I want to be, where I can learn something.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I be allowed to walk a street and say hello to anybody without
Mm.
being judged by the color of my skin? I mean,
Yeah.
Martin Luther King was alive.
Right.
I've seen him in person.
I saw him right
You
before he got killed. Right.
know
I
how
was
that
there.
goes.
Yeah.
But
It is interesting too because as I think about it, we survived all of that, so we had something going on, some
girl,
sense of hope, some sense of something to be able to, witness it today and to talk about it from a place that we can talk about it
yeah.
today. Like I was saying, for me, throughout that, I think I was like 13 or something, and I just pressed on and I held back and I just kept saying, move forward, you can make it, move forward. And then when 2020 and all this hit, I really grieved for the first time over all of that because I just go for the goal, girl. Don't That's gonna hold you back, right? If you
Okay, exactly.
uh, so there was no real emotions around it until recently. So I'm still processing even that from all of that until now, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
thank God I have spiritual practices, right?
Yep.
Thank God I have something that can support me in getting clarity and grieving and understanding to keep moving forward, right?
Oh,
Right?
girl.
To have the whole breakdown, right? And it was great to have it, acknowledge it, but that was years of upset, right?
I
So,
know, girl. All right, so I had the experience. I had the I had the front line. I had the experience of the virus.
mm,
Believe me, I was um I don't know how to put this any better than I literally mm, I don't know how to put this. I'm just
go
going to
ahead.
be as sensitive as I can
Right.
because I know
Okay.
it's a public forum.
Go ahead.
There was, at that time, I was tried spiritually, tried,
Mm, mm,
literally tried, because
mm,
some of the not obvious symptoms, mental, um,
mhm,
spiritual influences around that
mm,
were like this.
mm.
I experienced, I have to say, I'll just say I experienced a dark place,
Right.
place that I would probably not, I would have succumbed to or given
Mhm,
into
mhm.
had I not
Had those
known
type of
how to
mm,
speak or to call
mm,
on the divine self, how to call
mm.
on my God, how to call and say, the truth about me is not, this is not the truth about my life.
Right, right, right.
Satan, get behind thee. That
Right,
kind
right,
of stuff.
right.
I
Right.
had to literally
Mhm,
talk to that darkness and say, I am in the light right now.
mhm, mhm,
I will
mhm,
not be disturbed. This
mhm,
is God's property. I needed to know that. I needed
mhm.
to say, wherever I am, God is,
God
and
is,
all
yeah.
is well. The
Mhm,
light,
mhm,
I promise you, how many times did I go? The light, I was there because
mm,
I was in that dark place. That, go, yea, though I walk through that valley,
mhm,
I was walking through it. Trust me. I had that
mhm.
dark night, child.
Yeah.
I'm just confessing to you.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
that that joy cometh in the morning happened.
Yeah, that joy. That song is so funny because I love gospel music, and I know we sing in choirs, right? And the song that I used for my audition for a high school choir was "Joy Coming in the Morning." Behind every dark cloud, there's a silver lining, right? Yes. Joy, right, cometh in the morning, right? So, I talk about the spiritual toolkit. Pam, what would you say are your top 3 spiritual practices that are personal to you and work for you?
Whew.
I hear one that just popped into my mind. Calling it out, all is well, and
there you go. Declare that it is so.
Declare it is so.
That's
right.
I definitely. I speak from not only a possibility but a probability. I'll just say it's so. Whether or not I don't care how it happens. That's not my job. My job is to say thank you that it is already in action. The truth about my life is this. We heard recently, don't confuse me with the facts.
Right.
It might look like something. However, I know at the end of the story. Why? Because I'm creating that story right now. So speaking it into light, speaking it into itself. The scripture says, and faith. It's a practice of faith. Faith is substantial.
Yeah.
Faith is the substance of things unseen. Faith makes its substance. Faith is the evidence. I mean, faith is the substance of things, not saying the evidence of things.
Right, we know that one. Right, we got it.
And it's evidential. Right. Faith, that's what you need. Faith is the stuff hoped for. Faith is substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
You're gonna get
faith is tangible.
Yeah.
Anything that you faith forward. I'd have to say that is probably my number one practice is faith forward. Face forward and faith in a forward motion. And I also meditate when I'm playing my violin. That sound. Sometimes I'll just play one long note. And I become one with the wood. I become one with my creative source. And I chill. And a couple other things, we'll go into that just sort of like put me center. But those are probably my big one is faith forward. Everything I do with faith, faithfully, knowing that there is an energy, a power that goes before me, because I asked it, like, can you look into that for me?
Yeah, make the way, right?
Hello. Right. I'm just going to step on in, then, guide me, guard me, gravitate me to my greatest good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's some G's for you, Reverend G.
Yeah. All the G's, right? That is really, and as when you said meditation and talked about your violin, you could go into a form. Music can be a spiritual practice that takes you to a lot of places when you come. I can imagine playing a beautiful song on your violin and finding this great space, right?
Yes.
This great place of like peace and understanding. And when you mentioned the knowing and what things bring you to that place of that knowing, because that knowing is connected to the faith, right?
Yeah, that's the I know that I know that I know.
Right, exactly.
And all that is being present to who you are and whose you are. Being present. It's so many people forget to be here now.
Be here now, right? Exactly. We're so on it, and we're missing everything that's in there right now, right? because I got my goals, right? And I'm shooting towards them without even really acknowledging and being present in the moment, right? You know, we always say it's being present to the not just run the journey, but being present, right? And enjoying it, right? And I talk about grace and ease, moment by moment, knowing where you are and understanding all of that. And the grace and ease thing for me comes from my experience of not having that, my experience of just fighting and running and pushing hard and making sure, right? And now I get it doesn't take all that, because if we talk about faith, if we talk about knowing, all that pushing and fighting and hustling and running and all that, not necessary, right?
You're all tense.
Yes, yeah, all the stress, all that around, all of it, right?
How can you receive anything with a clenched fist?
Exactly. All the tension and all that. So it really is about finding the relaxation, finding that knowing, I would say. I like that. Finding that space of knowing that all is well.
All is well.
Yeah.
All is well at all times.
So, Pam, we're getting ready to close. What would you like to leave our audience with? I'm so excited that we had this conversation tonight. She's like,
I'm looking. Shoot. I didn't even think about this. I just came back from a lesson, and I put my violin in my viola in another room. But I don't know. What can I leave you with? I just want to leave everybody with the thought that whatever it is that makes this happen, whatever it is that makes your heart happy, do that, be that, embody that, be authentic on purpose, and be at peace. Be at peace with yourself. Find that peace within, and watch everything else just unfold right before your very eyes. Don't mind what it looks like. Know what it looks like.
Yeah. Wow, Pam. I'm excited.
It's banana. It's so funny seeing you here. I'm like, why can't I hug you? Why can't I rub your bosom?
Yeah. And so I'll see you soon. And it's great. Pam and I sang in choir together. So gospel music is like important to us both, right?
Yes, girl.
Right. Singing at church, right?
Hey, it'll come back. It'll be
come
soon.
Back soon. We'll get a choir. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And I'll see you soon. Love ya.
Love you back.
Bye.
Bye, honey.
Thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Rev G. I'm here every Monday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on WEMS Radio. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Reverend Grenetta Mason, on Instagram as Rev Grenetta, and on YouTube and Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason. And I'd like to leave you today. One of the things that Pam made me think about that was really important is around faith. And what does faith look like for you? I'm Reverend G, and I will see you next Monday. So go out there, live your best life, find some joy with grace and ease. Have a great week.